Lately, I've been pretty interested in photography. I've always had a relative interest, but never really got super... God damn it, Cat. Lately, I've been way more interested in photography. I've been getting really into it, especially with the film process, developing, and printing, especially. The big thing was, though, I couldn't print in color. And now, that's changed. What I have here is an expired box of Kodak Supra Endura Surface N color printing paper. And this uses the RA4 chemical mixture, or whatever you want to call it, the developing chemicals, to bring you a color print. Now, just like black and white printing, this accepts a negative image with an orange tint from the emulsion, and it will present as a proper color image. This is just a small test and kind of bad test that I ran a little while previously, trying to establish color and contrast and things like that. But honestly, I will say, so far, I don't find this particularly more difficult than, say, black and white printing. It's about the same level of difficulty to me. I think the biggest issue is the developer's lifespan. At least the Arista kit that I use has a pretty abysmal lifespan, and you'll see that in my very frustrating to watch video next of me actually working on some prints. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's make a quick print of something I've prepared beforehand. It's a shot of a little pub down on Woodward near Royal Oak. Looks great. Nighttime shot. A lot of contrast though, and I got to keep the darks dark and the lights light, which is a little bit of a challenge with this RA4 paper. So we've got our enlarger stopped down to like 16, and I'm going to give it only maybe 6 or 7 seconds of exposure and see what happens. My water bath just behind me here should be at about 105 degrees now, so everything's all nice and ready to go. And I got some of those fancy weird accordion bottles, and those so far have prevented a lot of oxidization. It's just been pure use pretty much, which is nice. So yeah, let's see how that works. So, my wife and I were out doing some Cinestill 835mm photography about a month ago or so. There was a lot of nice places with neon and things like that on Woodward near Royal Oak here in Michigan. It's a cute little town. I grew up there, and they've got a bunch of neon like the Main Street Theater, rest in peace. the laundromat over on Woodward, just north of 11 Mile, things like this. And one of the places is Dugan's Irish Pub. And I kind of got some weird results. Now, keep in mind, at this point, I had been printing for a fair while. And as you can see with these two different exposure checks, they don't look very good. Now, I'm cheap. I'm really cheap. Incredibly cheap. And I don't like the idea of developer only being able to used. I don't like the idea of developer being used only once. So I tried to reuse it as much as I could, and even at 250 or 500 milliliters of solution, I still ran into a brick wall at about 15 prints. Now, part of that was obviously oxidation, and I can't avoid that. It was turning black. I should have known that the developer had already expired and was starting to fail, but I kept printing and getting god-awful results. I attempted to print a picture of my wife's, and you can probably barely see this, but it's supposed to be a time-lapse of an ambulance going down Woodward. And here's a slightly better version when the chemicals hadn't expired as much. And for even more contrast, here is a picture of my wife, and it is not very good. Look at the incredibly over-dense, look to this. It's washed out. There's not a lot of contrast here. You can definitely tell the developer is not in a good way. But I go ahead and mix a fresh batch of chemicals, and Jesus, that makes a difference and a half. Now, obviously, I had tried compensating, just thinking that maybe I had overexposed the paper. I attempted to compensate for what I saw as a green cast. However, I should have realized that green cast mostly comes from a failing RA4 color developer. So, if you are getting results like this instead of like this, so this yucky neon green mess versus, ooh, true color, you're probably looking at a dying developer. So, bite the bullet. The Blix, however, lasts ages. I've yet to replace my first mix of about 1,000 milliliters, about a liter of Blix. Another thing, too, that I hadn't really thought about before, starting to print these night scenes is the fact that there's a lot of black here, and I'm going to assume that having that much black on the page, and especially an 8x10 big sheet, that's got to take a lot of the dyes, or at least, whatever is in the color developer. I'm sure it is over-exhausting things much faster than it really should be. So, that's on me. But if you're doing the same thing and you're a noob and you're buying shitty expired Kodak paper to test, and all of a sudden your color starts dipping randomly and you really aren't changing your exposure that much, it's probably not you. Well, okay, it is you. Change the color developer. Okay, honestly, for it being expired in, November 2009 is when this expired. I'm kind of surprised that the whites aren't more yellow. Here, I'll show you a couple more instances of chemical exhaustion here, too. And also some, maybe, blunders on my end of exposure. So, I had quite a dark negative here, and this is of a little path with some trees behind it and a fence. Now, I did this one here shortly after doing the Dugan's Pug one, so I was still kind of thinking in that, oh my god, I've got to step down to 16 because, pure black is going to show through as pure white, which is going to way overexpose this RA4 paper super fast. I was still thinking like that with a normally lit scene, and you can tell you've got no density buildup here at all. It's just basically white and a slight color cast. Although that does show, it's not too yellowed. I'm really impressed by that. I was kind of expecting really, really horrible yellowing, but it's kind of okay. The guy did say he kept it in a fridge or a freezer. He kept it properly temperature controlled, which was nice of him. I'm thankful for that. But I kept doing it until eventually I start getting some good, decent results. But then, hold up. and I got the best result, which that's actually pretty true to life, and it's not too bad, though you can see it's still lacking quite a lot of density here. I didn't really want to pre-flash the paper or figure out how to do that because I've watched the Naked Photographer's guide on it, but I didn't have a lot of time. It was already like 11:30 at night and I was getting tired, so, you know, that's not going to happen. I'm not figuring out the pure gray level of that. And I went too far, and the color developer started dying again. You can see it here especially. There's really no density buildup here, but it's still dark. You know what I mean? It's not really like featured. There's no actual grain or definition to it. It's just kind of blank in these highlight areas. So look for that. If all of your image is quite dark, even though you did not, you've been exposing it more or less the same way the whole time, look at your density and your highlights. If it's starting to get real bad, and if you're starting to lose a lot of that contrast, just mix some new color dev. I swear to God, it will make your life easier. Anyways, I think I'm running out of recording time on that camera, so I'll leave you with this. Don't be afraid to try color printing. Honestly, the Arista kit was like 40-50 bucks for, I don't know, it was like 4 or 6 liters of stuff. I'm barely through a third of it at the moment. Even doing color developer is almost one shot. Buying this expired paper is not too difficult, and especially if you're just kind of getting used to it, it'll work fine enough, you know what I mean? Maybe you won't get perfect color accuracy, but while you're starting out, I imagine this is probably a fine approach. Also, you might get lucky and get, I think I bought this for like $25, maybe 30 bucks shipped for 100 sheets. That's fucking nuts. Anyways, yeah, don't be afraid to try color printing. It's really fun. The enlargers are still pretty cheap, thank God, and I don't find it all that difficult. If you can, find yourself one of those Kodak or whatever color packs that lets you do adjustments and things like that. That helps a lot. Anyways, I've been Dylan, you've been watching, and I'll probably see you soon with a review of this Kodak number 2 folding camera. Wowza. Okay, bye. Shit. Okay, hopefully the camera didn't fucking stop recording partway through this. Stopping phone. Stop Sony. Okay, oh thank God. Oh, they only have 2 minutes left.